In this video, I want to tackle the question of joins and blends, which are one of the things that make Tableau and other packages like this incredibly powerful. So we started off with this star schema with a sales fact table and a date dimension, a product dimension, and a store dimension. Over here we have a different fact table, which is facts about the population of each district in which the store is located. And for this, you notice I have a district key here and a district dimension. So the star is actually what I've defined here, these two tables together, population fact and district dimension. And then district dimension is related to store dimension by the fact that they share the district key in common. So this is what's called drilling across, or it's called blending. And this kind of a blend takes place by observing that the district dimension is higher up in the hierarchy than the store dimension is. So population we have only at the level of district, but sales we have at the level of store, by date, by product. So if we want to do something like calculate sales per capita, we have to take into account that we can only do it at the level of sales per district. Otherwise we're going to get an incorrect number for that. So that's why understanding the granularity of the data and what data you're actually joining together is absolutely essential. And you can do it by looking at a diagram, but of course most data that you get from various different data sources will not come with a convenient little star schema diagram to explain to you exactly what the data is. A lot of times you have to discover what the granularity of the data is yourself and how the data matches up and whether or not there's a direct match between the data. So you can do that in a package like Tableau with a little bit of sleuthing, or you can use more powerful ETL tools to help you do that. In order to illustrate this in Tableau, I'm going to go ahead and go back to Tableau here. I have a blank sheet here. I have my data that I already loaded for the sales fact star, and let's close these off here just so things are a little bit tidier. And then I'm going to go to data, and I'm going to say new data source because I want to bring in the second star, but I'm not going to join it in with the data in the first star yet. So I'm going to do what's called a blend. So I'm going to say new data source, go back to my Excel file, take the same one that I had before. It could be, any source that you use from the cloud, from other places in your enterprise. So now I've got the same set of tabs from the spreadsheet, but this time I'm going to bring in the population fact table, and then I'm going to bring in my district dimension. And so, I just have a very small amount of data here. I've got 4 districts and 4 populations for this, and I'll head back over to sheet 1 for this. So now Tableau is showing you that you have 2 separate data sources. It makes up the names for them. You can right click on them and rename them if you want to make the names more user-friendly for this. So let's simply, if I simply call up the district key here and then bring over the population, you'll see that I've got my 4 districts here. So what happens if I want to then look at the total sales by district? If I simply click over, and by the way, the fact that this has a blue check on it, that means this is the primary table. If I then click on sales fact, Tableau automatically tries to find a field on which to link. If you go back to our star schema, you will see that the field that we're linking on is the district key, or it could also be the district name. Tableau will do either one. It doesn't really care which one it does. And let's go back and see what Tableau actually is giving us the option of linking on district name, and that has a little link on it here, but right now the link is broken. It has not yet been established. Here I've got the district key as a candidate, but here I spelled district key incorrectly with the lowercase as opposed to the uppercase, so Tableau does not automatically know that those two are linked. Fortunately, the district names are the same, so I can use that. So in order to make the blend, that is to say, to relate these two tables together, I'm going to simply turn the link on by clicking on this, and it turns orange. So now I'm in my secondary table. If I say give my total sales by district, I bring that in, And notice that when I start my blend on the side of the district, I had 4 districts, but currently I only have sales for 3. Now, the type of join that I just did is what's called a left join. So there are 3 different types of joins that you can have. It's actually 4 different types of joins. So in most typical cases, you would have an inner join. That means that you're joining so that the result that you get only takes and shows you rows where you have common values for each of the tables. So let's say that I went back to Tableau here. I'll start another tab here, and this time I start from the sales fact table, and I'm bringing in my district name, and then I'm going to move over to population fact. Notice this is blue now. I move over here, and now this is orange. It already knows about this link because I clicked it before. So sometimes it'll turn it on, sometimes it won't. But let's bring in the population. So where's District 4? See, we're not getting District 4, North 4 here because of the fact that we did an inner join. So we're only showing the results where we have common keys or common names on each side of the join. So if you started this way, you might never even know that there was a 4th district. But if you start from the other side, you would know that there was a 4th district, and in fact, we didn't have any sales data for that district. So I just said that in Tableau, when we did the second join here, that this was an inner join. This is not actually correct. This is also a join, but it's a join from the opposite direction, so it's what's called a right join. It's all a matter of perspective of which table do you call left to begin with and which table do you call right to begin with. So in any case, here's the left, here's the right, and then here's what happens with the left join, here's what happens with the right join, and then there's something that's called a full outer join, where it will give you every single row from each of the dimensions on each side of the join and simply give you blanks where there's no data, where there is no match. So Tableau gives that capability, and I'll show that at the end of this video, but to begin with, I want to continue to see how we can use the 2 tables or stars that we've actually brought in, population and fact, in order to define the sales per capita. To get sales per capita, let's start off by taking the district name here, because that's the level of granularity we know that we're going to need to be at. And then let's sales per capita, let's take our total sales here. And then if we move over to population fact table, again, our link is highlighted and we can bring in population. Okay, so what do we know sales per capita is? It's total sales divided by population. So let's take analysis and let's say create calculated field. We'll call this sales per capita. And here's a little trick. I'm going to simply drag this sum of the total sales in, and then say divide that by sum of the population. And the calculation is valid because I already have those expressions here. I don't even have to type in the word sum here. And you notice this little dot here. This is showing you that Tableau is blending across to a related fact table. And so I'll click on OK. And let's see, sales per capita is going to be $. So let's say default property, number property here, currency. And then let's bring in sales per capita onto our table here. Let's expand this out so that we can see it a little bit better. And also let's move sales per capita to the bottom here. There we go. Now, notice that it says AG down here. That's telling you that this is an aggregated calculation, so you're not going to be able to click on here and change how it's doing the aggregation, because the aggregation is being done inside the calculation itself. Whereas here, for this sum, you can still change the way that it's being aggregated because this is at the table level, that's being displayed as opposed to behind the scenes in a calculated field that you have defined. And we started out, which was our primary table, it was sales fact, but we defined this from the point of view of the population fact table. So if I go back to sales fact table, notice here we don't have that calculation, sales per capita. So the thing to realize is that you can lose your calculations depending on where you put them if you forget which side of the blend you actually have put your calculations on. So we have the proper level of aggregation, district, we've got the population for each district, the total sales for each district, and the sales per capita. What happens if I drill down and I say I'm going to add the next level of granularity here, which is the store name? So for each store, we're repeating the population, and we're now dividing this up. We're saying we have $4,300 of sales for Walmart 71. Sales per capita there is 27 cents. Is that actually a valid calculation? Well, you can say that there were 16,000 people in the district, and Walmart 71 accounted for 27 cents of that sales per capita, and Walmart 73 accounted for 25 cents of that sales per capita. So what was it again if I take store out? 52, and if I put store in, looks like the sum of these are 52. So I wouldn't say that this is necessarily incorrect, but what would be incorrect is if I did this a slightly different way. And let me show you what would happen if I go here to a completely new sheet here. I have my sales fact table here, and what would happen if I actually added the population to that table? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back to the data source for this sales fact table, and I'm going to essentially ruin everything that I've done so far. I'm going to say, or not exactly ruin, but I'll go back to my data source here. Okay, here's the data source. So what I can do here is I can take this population fact table and I can actually bring it right in here, and I can join it to my product dimension, or sorry, to my store dimension here. And so here's the store dimension. I've got my district key over here. I've got my district key. And so essentially now if I go back to this, to a blank sheet here, notice that I've now added population to the measures. But what does this mean? It means if I go back down to my level of granularity here, so let's take my date key, my product key, and my store key. And now what I've done is I've actually added population to every single record. Notice I have my 321 marks. I have my population here for each district. And what would happen if I then took the sum of the population? I would get something that would be wildly incorrect, right? Because we know that if we actually took the population by district, and how could we do that? If I went, again, another blank sheet, back to my population table that's correct, and I said, what's my population by district? And then what's the total sum that I have for all of this? If I go to total and I say column, column total, 66,000. What would be my column total here? You already know that it's going to be something that's wildly incorrect. So go down to the bottom here. It's 4.1 million. So if I use this population as part of the calculation, let's say now I just simply decide to do sales per capita, but I incorrectly set up my tables like this. So what would a bad sales per capita be? Let's go to create calculated field. Let's say sales per capita bad. And then let's bring over total sales and divide that by population. So this seems like it might be right, but let's click on OK and bring that onto the table here. And I'm getting zeros because actually it's less than 0, but it's not showing me the decimal places. So what I need to do is I need to go back and reformat this here. And I can say, actually go back to my sales per capita bad over here, right click and say default properties number format, and let's say custom number, and get a whole bunch of decimal places. Okay, so is the sales per capita really 0.00708? Well, I suppose, I don't know. Can you really say that that is a valid calculation here? That on date 29 for product 1 in store 4, we had a sales of, what was the sales amount for that? Total sales of $100, and that accounted for $100 divided by that population of the district. I don't know. Again, you'll have to think, is that really a correct calculation or not? But down here, the grand totals, we have a total sales of 40,000. It says our population is 4 million, and it says that our per capita, sales per capita is $6.29. Could that possibly be correct? If I go back to the previous calculations here, so here are our districts, and I've got the sales per capita per district, and then let's just simply take out the district name itself and look at what is the overall sales per capita. Now, when I pulled that out, Tableau said, wait a minute, I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to be linking on. I got this error message. Can you tell me what to link on? And click OK there, go back to my sales fact table and turn that link back on, even though I don't have district on my table here. And what's the overall sales per capita? 60 cents. So my incorrect calculation said that it was $6.29, and my correct calculation said it was 60 cents. So that is how you can really go astray if you don't understand the difference between blending and joining. So remember, just to recap, what did I do? I started out by correctly bringing in the sales fact table without this extra population column, and that ended up being a column that was at each for each row. I went and up to data, and I started a new data source. My new data source is where the population data is. That's at the level of granularity of district. Then Tableau and I figured out that district name was what was going to link these two fact tables together. Then I calculated my sales per capita properly. Then, to show you how it should not be done, I went back to my sales fact table. I added population by joining the population in to this table, the fact table for sales. So it was, in essence, population was being added for every single row, and then I did a bad calculation. So this was a join, whereas this was a blend. Both of them are using fields in order to combine the data, but the blend is doing it at the proper level of aggregation, whereas the join in this case is not. And if you're joining data to bring it together, then you need to understand whether or not you're doing it at the proper level of aggregation and what are the implications of actually doing that properly or improperly.